Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Showtime with Mike and Tyler. And welcome to another week of Showtime with Mike and Tyler. I'll never be able to do the voice like Jay does.
I love our entrance for this show.
I love it so much. It's so good. So it's my week. It's time for episode 2 of the weekly format for Maple Leaf Pro.
MP Dub.
Well, it's MLP. But...
What did I say? MP Dub. Oh. You know what? It's so funny. This is the first week that I'm not drunk doing this show, and I fuck it up like that. Jesus.
I'm really excited for this one. I am going to do a little recap of last week just so you know where we are. But I'm moving towards the. I've got the next few weeks done for myself. So I know where these stories are going. So I'm already really excited to start bringing you on this journey, and I'm really happy about that. Just to put people into perspective of where we're coming from, of course, we've got AJ Styles as our big heel champion, declaring himself a honorary Canadian last week. It's Josh Alexander fought Will Ospreay in the main event. Sorry, ink everywhere. Josh Alexander beat Will Ospreay to become the number 1 contender to face AJ Styles tonight on this show. Of course, his feud with Prince Devitt is not over. Devitt is very upset that Josh Alexander got the spot and he didn't. He got a chance to move up in the rankings by beating Jeff Cobb. Came short and lost to Jeff Cobb. In other stories, of course, at the end of the show, he did attack Josh Alexander with a chair, and that's how we went off the air. In other stories, we have the Loose Cannons still feuding with the Briscoes. The feud revolves around what constitutes family, blood or not. So that's a cool little story we got going on. We had G Raver beat Albright to move up in the ranks of what I've decided I'm calling the Combat Championship division. That's a little rub to my good friend Ray, who had back in our backyard days, one of the championships was called the Combat title. So that's a rub to my buddy.
Like that.
Of course, our GM, Mauro Ronaldo, came out and debuted the local open challenge, which means any Canadian superstar can come out and challenge anybody on the roster, and if they win, they get a place in the roster. So that's a thing. The feud with Big Ben and Matt Cardona has escalated. Big Ben was unhappy that he lost a match at the pay-per-view to Matt Cardona, so he said, let's see if you can go 2 out of 3. They fought last week, and Big Ben won. So we have 1 match more to go, and that's happening tonight. That's pretty much everything that happened last week. One thing I do want to remind everybody of was at our debut pay-per-view, there was a dark match that saw a handicap match between the Inspiration versus Jordan Grace, and AJ Lee came out for the save at the end of it. So remember that, because that might come into play tonight. Going into tonight's show, we open with the Canadian National Anthem.
Love it.
And as the National Anthem plays, the world's greatest Canadian, AJ Styles, comes to the ring and to greet his adoring fellow Canadians.
Boo.
And he is getting fucking booed. And he's coming out. He's wearing a t-shirt with like Justin Trudeau's face on it. He's like he's going overboard, right? And he's calling the fans his adoring fellow Canadians. And he says that this is the night that he proves that he's a better and bigger Canadian than Josh Alexander. He says that this is the night that he destroys Josh's dreams of being a champion. Then Jeff Cobb comes out and he tells AJ that he beat Prince Devitt last week and he can't wait to become champ. Actually, he can't wait to beat the champ, Josh Alexander, which AJ doesn't really like. Morrow comes out and tells Jeff that while he's doing very good in the company, he still has some work to do before he can become number one contender. He's got to work his way up the rankings. He says, and you know what? You can start right now. Our opening match is Jeff Cobb versus Tama Tonga.
Yeah, okay.
So we go straight into it. It's a hard-hitting match, just like you would expect from these two guys. They beat the crap out of each other. And right at the end, right when Tama doesn't see it, he comes running in for a big Superman punch or something like that, and gets caught by Cobb and goes right in. Cobb goes right into the Taste of the Islands out of nowhere, and hits him right down and gets him for the 3 count. Jeff Cobb wins the match, as AJ has been watching from the side, and AJ is clapping him approvingly. AJ's impressed with what he's seen. Anybody, are you familiar with Jeff Cobb's finisher, the Taste of the Islands?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay. For anybody listening don't know, it's basically a scoop power slam, but it's like fast.
It's like reverse too, like this weird spin he does. It looks incredible.
Go Google it. There's an amazing video online I saw somebody make of like 40 of them in a row.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's really cool. Match number 2, The Inspiration versus Jordan Grace and AJ Lee. For the most part, this match is very one-sided, with AJ and Jordan just showing their superiority against The Inspiration as a team and as wrestlers. At one point, I have the Peyton Royce is the legal man. Or legal woman, I should say. She rolls out and Billy Kay comes in and they try to do the whole Basham's thing, the whole twin switch.
Yeah.
And the ref looks and be like, "You're not even twins. I know that's not you." Like they're really playing up the comedy aspect of it. And then as that is going on, Jordan has enough of the bull crap. She grabs Peyton Royce, throws her on her shoulders. AJ comes flying over and they hit Peyton with a doomsday device, and they hit that for the win.
I like that finish. I like the comedy finisher.
Yeah. Then we go to the back and we got our boy Bill After, and he's in the back with Petey Williams. Petey says he's been spending all his time working really hard in the gym with Marco's stunt, and everybody should get ready for a brand new Marco in just a few weeks. He said, when Marco comes back, you're not going to recognize him. He's going to be a contender here in Maple Leaf Pro. Colby Carino walks over and he tells Petey that it's a privilege to be in the same company as him. Shakes his hand and he says he's always respected Petey. He says, my dad has always said a lot of great things about you. You're very respected. And Colby says, I've always respected Marco's heart. He's got the most heart of any wrestler, but maybe he should go back to COW and manage his boys in Jurassic Express, because he's got heart, but he'll never get it done in the ring like everybody else can here. Petey says, you just wait to see what I've done to him. You'll see one day. And that's the end of that segment.
You just gained a whole bunch of ratings with the mention of Cal, by the way.
Yeah, fuck you.
Through the roof, buddy.
Match number 3. We are set for Big Ben versus Matt Cardona in the third and final match of their best 2 out of 3 series. Ben comes to the ring first with a huge pop from the crowd. Matt comes out second, but he's not dressed to wrestle. He grabs a mic and he explains that it's not fair for him to wrestle tonight because last week he was caught off guard. He says, you just made that challenge out of nowhere and I wasn't ready, and that's why I lost. It's not fair. So I need to prepare. I need some more time. We will wrestle next week. He says, and Let's make it interesting. Let's make it a submission match. So then Morrow comes out. He says, you know what? That's what you guys want to do. That's what we'll do next week. It's Ben versus Macardone in a submission match. But Ben, you can stay right there. You don't have to go. You want to wrestle? You'll wrestle, because we're going to do the open challenge match right now. We've got our Canadian who wants a spot here. Bring him out. His name is Safety Travis Moore.
Yeah, I love Travis.
Our boy. Travis hits the ring.
Just for the record, too, I watched these guys fight at Barrie Wrestling, and it was fucking awesome.
The minute Travis hits the ring, the bell rings, and as soon as the sound of the bell hasn't even left your ears yet, and a very pissed off Ben just lariats the fuck out of him.
Oh, poor Travis.
Just massacres him with the hardest lariat you've ever seen in your life. Something that would make JBL go, oh, you know. He's flattened out. Ben rolls him over, puts him in a crossface. And as he's got the crossface on, he's staring Cardona right in the fucking eyes. And he's got that crossface on, and Travis is screaming and he's tapping, and Ben is staring down Cardona, and Cardona is pissing himself. Cardona is scared. And that's a commercial break. When we come back, we're ready for a tag. We're ready for singles action. It's Brian Pillman, a junior, with both Harry Smith and Bronwyn Billington in his corner, versus Mark Briscoe with his brother Jay in his corner.
I like that you put him with Mark. I think that's the right choice.
I think so too. They have a pretty standard match.
No Papa Briscoe?
Papa Briscoe, I'm saving Papa Briscoe. He's not here yet.
Okay.
I got plans for Papa. So right now they're kind of outnumbered, right? It's a pretty straightforward match. Mark starts to get the upper hand on Brian after a while, basically out of goddamn experience, right? And then there's a tussle outside the ring. Harry and Jay are starting to get into it a little bit, and then Bronwyn gets involved. She throws herself to the ground and she fakes getting hit by Jay, which distracts the referee. The referee looks over and all he sees is Bronwyn on the ground. He looks over to make sure she's okay. While that's happening, Harry jumps in the ring and they hit Mark with the heart attack. Harry jumps out. Ref looks around. All he sees is Brian Pillman covering Mark Briscoe. He hits the 1, 2, 3. Brian Pillman wins. And the Briscoes are pissed.
Like it.
As they're leaving, they're celebrating as heels do. And Brian looks right at the camera and he says, "Only real family works like that, baby."
A little salt in the wound.
A little salt in the wound. Morrow comes out next to announce that on December 31st, we have our our next pay-per-view. And it'll be a New Year's pay-per-view. It's happening on December 31st, so the last show of the year. And he says, I've already signed 2 matches. It's Marco Stunt versus Colby Carino, and the Briscoes versus the Loose Cannons.
Nice.
Both happening at the pay-per-view. Before he can finish, Tessa Blanchard comes out and confronts him in the ring. And she says that out of respect, Morrow, you've done a shit job of building a women's division in this company. There's only 5 women in this company. That's not a division. We need to be represented. She says, and then Morrow says, I hear what you're saying. Give me some time. I'm going to work on it. I'm working really hard on this company. I'll build it up. And she says, that's not good enough, Morrow. You can't send a boy to do a woman's job. I say you put a woman in that role and get her to run this division. And he thinks about it. He says, that's not that. You know what? That might not be a bad idea. How's this? Next week, you can take on the Canadian Open Challenge. And If you lose, I mean, that's a good thing. You got one more woman in your division. But if you win, you can be the vice president in charge of the women's division, and you can hire whoever you want. And she smiles. She goes, I'll take that challenge. Great. She gets out of the ring, starts walking away. And Morrow says, I find it fair to warn you, just so you know, heads up, next week's open challenge is Lufisto.
Oh.
So next week we have Tessa Blanchard versus Lufisto. And if Lufisto wins, she gets a spot in the company. If Tessa wins, she's now in charge of the women's division.
I like that a lot.
Match number 5. We got just a match to push the combat division and to have somebody go up in the rankings. So it's a death match between Sami Callihan and Matthew Justice, and Sami wins. I won't go too into detail about it. Match number 6 is a 4-way match. The winner gets to face Jeff Cobb next week, because Jeff Cobb's on fucking fire right now, and he's about to be the highest ranked person next to Josh Alexander. So anybody who would win this match and gets to face Jeff Cobb basically gets a chance to take his place in the rankings. So it's a big deal. Sorry. Your 4. That's okay. Your 4 men are Jonathan Gresham, Josh Woods, Will Ospreay, and Prince Devitt.
Not bad at all.
Jonathan Gresham. So they basically come to the ring in that order: Jonathan Gresham first, Josh Woods, Will Ospreay. Then there's no Prince Devitt. Devitt doesn't show up. So it turns into a triple threat match. It's Gresham versus Woods versus Ospreay. Gresham gets the pin on Woods, and Gresham is going on next week to face Jeff Cobb. It is now time for the main event for the Maple Leaf Pro World Championship. It's AJ Styles versus Josh Alexander. Morrow comes out first, and he sits at the commentary booth. He says he wants a front row seat for this one. During commentary, he talks about how confused he is as to why Devitt didn't show up. He says, I haven't seen Devitt all night. I don't know why he's not here. I figured he'd want a front row seat for this match, as he has a problem with Josh Woods. I figured he'd want a chance to get his rankings back up. But due to no showing that 4-way, that brings his rankings down. So he's on a big losing streak here, Prince Devitt. AJ comes out first, and all of a sudden Morrow gets very confused. Morrow says on commentary that he is confused because he made the rule very, very clear in the back that the champion always comes second. That's always been very near and dear to Morrow's heart. He finds it very important. So why is AJ coming first? But AJ comes to the ring. He does his thing. He stands in the ring waiting for the challenger. Josh comes down. Now remember, we're doing the Maple Leaf Wrestling ramp. Okay? Mm-hmm. So he's crossing the ramp, and as he's crossing the ramp, out of nowhere comes Prince Devitt, attacking Josh in the ramp and throwing him off the side. And he hits that concrete, and he hits it fucking hard. Devitt stands very proudly on the ramp, looking at his dirty work. AJ's in the ring, looking very pleased. He starts kind of taunting and celebrating in the ring as he's just like he's won a match. And out of the crowd comes Jeff Cobb, runs in the ring, and he just stands behind AJ. And Prince Devitt looks terrified. And he's trying to tell AJ, and AJ turns around, and he just turns around right into a taste of the islands. Just eats it. And then Cobb stands over. Morrow, at this point, is very mad. Morrow gets on the mic, and he says, that's it. He goes, you guys keep putting your nose where it doesn't belong. I'm going to start making some matches. I'm going to start doing out some punishments. Says, next week, the main event on this show will be a tag team match between Josh Alexander and Jeff Cobb versus Prince Devitt and AJ Styles.
I love it.
That's your main event. However, if you can't win this, if you can't come out on top and win this tag team match, you are out of the title rankings completely for a long time. And Cobb, you still have to face Jonathan Gresham next week. You're not out of that. So you have to face Jonathan Gresham, and you have to do his tag match. And he looks down, he sees a team of doctors helping out Josh Alexander. He says, if Josh Alexander can't wrestle next week, you're not out of it. You still have to face them in a handicap match. Jeff Cobb smiles, picks up a microphone. He says, in the legendary words of Tommy Dreamer, I'm hardcore. I'll take them both. He grabs AJ Styles, gorilla press slams him out of the ring onto Prince Devitt, knocking them both off the ramp. And we go off air with Jeff Cobb standing very, very successful in the ring.
Strong booking of Mr. Cobb tonight.
Yes, sir.
I like it. I like where you're going here. You got some angles that you got me invested in right now. Still loving the loose cannons and the Briscoes because I'm a tag team freak.
Yep.
I'm perplexed and intrigued about what is going on with Devitt. I don't know where his mind's at, what he's doing. You got a little Bullet Club tease going there with AJ and Devitt.
I like that. I feel like I'm doing something with Devitt that's never been done with him before. He's never been he's been a great heel, but he's never been that chicken shit heel.
Mm-hmm.
He's never been that that guy who doesn't care about losses. You know what I mean?
They both have a history of being leaders of the Bullet Club, so they have that connection,
absolutely.
which I like that is there. Alexander, you got the question mark, can he compete? You got Gresham kind of elevated this week. Yeah, man, I like it. I like where you're going. I'm intrigued to see what other match we're going to see on the pay-per-view coming up.
We still have a couple weeks till the pay-per-view, so several weeks if you're watching this show because we do things in 2-week increments.
That's correct.
Yeah, but I'm having fun. I thought I'd watch that show.
I mean, I would too, and I don't watch a lot of wrestling. I'd make time to watch some of those matches.
Yeah, man.
I like it.
I think it's a fun one to do.
I think this is a great addition to Maple Leaf Pro. Next week was the return of Cal.
See you all done.
You're going to see the next match in the best of 7 between Hangman and Roman, I believe. I don't remember what I booked. I think CM Punk is fighting El Generico next week after the debut of Cien and Generico. Yeah, all kinds of fun stuff.
Are we finally going to get some Dragon?
Yeah, tune in and see. Dragon's been off since the pay-per-view. You're going to have to tune in and see if you're going to see the return of Dragon or not.
All right.
I've written out the next 2 weeks of this show. I'm real happy with what's going on with it. You know, we got the evolution of Brock Lesnar with his little rival with Kenny Omega. You know, the a lot of emphasis on the world title here. So we'll see who's going to emerge as this number 1 contender.
Fantastic, man.
All right. Take us home, man.
Oh no, it's your line.
Oh, I do the right off for this another week. Well then, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in to Showtime with Mike and Tyler, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, and next week, Cal Wrestling. Don't you dare miss it.
We'll see you at the matches.